Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome back to CSS3 in 30 days, also known as Code 30 Things in 30 Days with CSS3. For the last few days, we've been coding some really cool things in CSS3, building actual practical things and widgets and buttons and clip paths and all these fun little things. And we're going to be adding more and more as we go over the following over the next 30 days. And so the purpose of doing this is to help you just build things, just jump in and sometimes go in over your head, figure out, survive, and just make it happen, make it work. And the cool thing is that I'm here to help you. The people in the course are here to help you. And the final CSS files are here to help you so you can reference what's going on. Why did that do that? And that's the purpose of this, to push you, to help you build things so that you can actually learn how to make things in CSS and CSS3. So today in day 4, we're going to be building and styling up a sexy registration form. So jump on over here into my browser, and we're going to use CSS to style the following web form right here into something visually attractive with a great user experience. And of course, refer to the final result for some help. So this thing doesn't look so nice. You know, it's a form, it's not functional, but in theory it's functional. Let's say it created an account. You know, you'd enter your name and your email and then, or your email and your password and create your account. You know, it's a form, it's HTML. It works in theory, but it doesn't look good. It doesn't have a good user experience or a good user interface. So if I scroll down, this final result is much more attractive. It's got a nice background, a cool gradient in the back. The login, create an account widget pops up off the background. You can enter, you know, it gives you instructions. It's very clear. The conventions of this form look very much like what people are used to. You know, it's very nice and appealing. You know, you click on an input and it fades in a little bit. It's just, it focuses, it looks nice. The button is cool. You go to click on it and it kind of has this really neat, like, kind of a striped effect that grows in the background. And then even when you hover over this widget itself, it almost like shuffles down paper, like cards, almost like you're holding a deck of cards. So it just all around has a neat user experience and user interface. So we're going to be doing that in CSS and CSS3. Over in our code editor, I've got a folder called Sexy Registration Form. It's number 4. In this module, there is a link to download number 4 Sexy Registration Forms. Open that up in your code editor. Of course, we have the index with all the markup that you are more than welcome to reference. Sandbox.css, where we are going to be coding our styles, and final.css that you can use for reference to see how the final result is built. So if you have any problems or mistakes, then you can go there, refer to that, and fix up those issues. So in our Sandbox.css, let's get started. Now, before we write a lick of CSS, let's go to our HTML. I know I'm jumping you all over the place here, but hang with me. And let's see the markup. The markup's super simple. We have a div with the class of a register wrapper. Within that, we have a div called register block. And then in there, we have a level 3 heading, a paragraph, and then the form itself with 3 inputs within it, an email, password, and a submit button. So very, very simple markup, just 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, you know, like 10 or 11 lines of CSS. Very, very simple markup. Then our sandbox is where all the magic is going to happen in our CSS. So let's start off by selecting the register-wrapper. And in there, we're going to do the background image, and we're going to give it a WebKit linear gradient. And it's going to be at 135 degrees. The color, we're going to start with 0 EEFF0 at a 30% color stop. And then the next color, so comma separate, 088F90 at a 90% color stop. So those two colors, the first color value and the second color value, it starts at 30% and then 90%. So that gradient will use those as color stops to give transitions to create an interesting gradient that happens in those specific color stops. So what I'm going to do there is I'm going to copy that and make sure we semicolon, paste it. And instead of WebKit linear gradient for the second, we're going to just use linear gradient, same values. Don't worry about changing anything there. Semicolon. And we're going to say position relative. And then the Z index will be 3. Padding, let's give it 100 pixels on all sides. The font size, I don't think we need to play around with font size actually. Color is going to be 999. The color of the text within it is going to be 999. Now save that. Let's see what we got here in our, there we go. So check this out. We have a 135-degree angle. It's going down kind of from top left to the bottom right. Slightly off. It's more so going from like here to here, I believe. So whatever 135 degrees is. And change the value to see what happens. And then we got the gradient at the 30% color stop around here, and then the 90% color stop here. So you could see how they, if you were to change those color stop values or add more, you would see how the gradient changed. Or if you added more colors with different color stops. Feel free to play with that just to become familiar. The color is 999, 100 pixels of padding. Looks good. Let's go back to our code editor and get back into it. So register wrapper, and then the asterisk, which is basically a catch-all. It selects every element within the register wrapper div. And we're just going to say box sizing is going to be border box. Basically, the reason why we want to do that is so that the padding doesn't add any value of any of the elements within there. When we add padding, we don't want it to add any width to the container. We want it to stay within the border box rather than when we add 30 pixels on either side of a 100 pixel box. We don't want it to be 160 pixels now because it's added some weight, some size. We want it to stay within there and just work with the fixed width. So that's the border box property, box sizing property rather. And then now let's go below that. We're going to say register wrapper form and then input. So we're selecting all the inputs. There's 3 of them. Display inline block. The width will be 100%. The padding, we're going to go 0 on top and bottom, 20 pixels left and right. The line height is going to be 50 pixels. The height will be 50 pixels. So this will vertically center the text. The background color is going to be white. The border will be solid, 1 pixel, E6, E6, E6. The border bottom width will be 3 pixels, so we'll have a larger bottom border. The border radius, we're going to give it something subtle like 5 pixels. And we're going to do WebKit transition, all 0.3 seconds and ease. We've been using that a lot. And then copy that, paste it, and just make it transition, all 3.3 seconds ease. Save that, head back to the browser, check it out. So we have this 100% width, like big, nice inputs. When you click on it, it fades some things in there with the transition. It fades in the border, but that outline kind of messes up the effect a little bit. So let's head back, and we're going to just probably under here say outline none. Save that, head back over here. Now that should have taken care of that outline. Very nice. Okay, so now what we're going to do is head back to our code editor, and we're going to select register wrapper form input, and then colon, and it's going to match not. So it matches an element that is not represented by the argument. So what are we not selecting here? This is a cool CSS trick here. So form input not, another colon, last child. So a virtual element here. So matches any element that is the last child of its parent. Basically, we want to select the inputs that are not the last child. Don't select the last element, the last input element within the form, which is the submit button. So that's just an interesting CSS selector, CSS3 selector way of just saying don't select the input. We could have just given an ID and just said don't select that or something, but this is just a little bit more of a fun way of doing it. It's a bit more dynamic. Margin bottom for the 2 inputs are going to be 20 pixels. Save that. Now head over to your browser. You can see that it affected only these 2 and not this one. There's no margin bottom for the Create My Account button. Cool. Now head back to the code editor. We're going to select the register wrapper again, the form, input, and then in square braces, we're going to select the type, attribute, and email, and then focus. Separate by comma, copy that, paste it out 3 more times, change the attribute, the type attribute, to email, and then active as the state. And then the third value here is going to be, password. And that's going to be focus, and then password active. Remove that last comma, curly braces. Border color, let's do CCC. Save that, check it out in the browser. When we focus, we get this C darker kind of gray border and active. So you can see that that covers, basically when you click on it, it changes the border color and gives it just a little bit nicer of a focus, which takes care of the fact that we removed the outline, created our own outline essentially. Now let's select the register wrapper again, form input, but this time we're going to select the type and the value, the attribute will be submit. So we want to select that submit button and change the style up for that one. So let's go ahead and say position, relative. We're going to go z-index1, display, inline block, padding 0 and 20, 0 on top and bottom, 20 left and right, pixels of course. Let's go background color. Just the background is going to be, actually do background color because we're going to be selecting background image later. We're going to go F2395A. Background size 100%. And then we're going to play around with something cool here. Background image. We're going to do the WebKit linear gradient and give a little space there because we're going to do something interesting. We're going to create stripes. Now, normally what you would do to create stripes, you don't have to know this stuff off by heart, is you just go to like a linear CSS3 linear gradient generator online. You Google that and then you just play around with it and you could do different code snippets and paste it in and you're off to the races. No need to reinvent the wheel, but here we're going to manually code this out so you can create the striped effect, which looks like this over here in the browser. So this striped effect. So the first value is going to be the degree in which we want the stripes to go. So 45 degrees. The first value is RGBA. We're going to use that because we want to say 255, 255, 255, 0.15, which is like 15%, and then 25% color stop. Now, if I left it at that, all you're going to get is just one single color. You won't see any change there. Now, if I go back to my code editor and add another value, say RGBA 0, 0, 0, and then 0, basically that's like black, but you can't see it. So it's creating just like kind of an empty chunk at 25% color stop. Save that. Let's see what's going to happen. So go over here. You're going to see now we actually have a bit of a stripe there. It's kind of created at the 25% color stop on the 45-degree angle. A bit of something's going on there. Now, if we change this to like, I don't know, like 0.8, go over here to your browser, you could see that this part is actually the black part. It's at 25% color stop at the 45-degree angle. You could see the black, but because we want it at 0, we don't really want to see it. It's going to create this effect right there. All right, so let's just keep moving. We're going to do another line here, RGBA. We're going to do 0, 0, 0, 0 again at the 50% color stop. Save that, and you're not going to see any change there yet until we get to the next value. So go down to the next line, RGBA 255, 255, 255, comma 0.15. This is white at 15%. 50% color stop. Save that. Head back over to the browser. Now we got a stripe going on. So you can see that at the 50% mark, we're starting to make some stripes. So carry on, back in the browser or the code editor here. RGBA. We're going to go 255, 255, 0.15 again at the 75% color stop. And let's continue to the next line. We're going to say RGBA. We're going to do that space again with the 0, 0, 0, 0, the black at the 75% color stop. And then last but not least, we're going to do one more RGBA 0, 0, whoops, 0, 0, 0, 0 at just, we're going to leave it. That's just the end. Save that. So now if we head over here, we can see in our browser, it's just pink. So something went wrong. Let's go to our code editor. I can see it here. I put a comma. You might have caught that instead of a decimal. Just typing too fast, not thinking. Save that, head back to the browser, obviously put that as a decimal, head over here. You can see the stripes now, but they're a little bit large, and that's because of the background size. So head back here in the code editor. We can change that right here in background size. We could do something like 20 pixels and then 20 pixels. So two values. So 20 pixels on the X and Y. Head over here to the browser. You can see we've got our stripes. That looks cool. So now let's continue. We're going to say border solid 1 pixel. We're going to go F02146. And then we're going to do border bottom width. We're going to do 3 pixels again. We're going to say the color is white. The outline is none. We don't want any outline on there as well. Cursor and pointer, sometimes you need to add that for inputs that are buttons. And then WebKit transition, all 0.3 seconds ease. Copy that, paste it out, change it to just transition, save it, head back over here to the browser. We've got a nice, neat button that looks nice and consistent. Beautiful. Head back to our code editor here. Now let's play around with the effect when you hover over this button. So we're going to say, I'm going to tab this in. I'm going to say register wrapper, form input, submit. So we're clicking that, we're getting that button again, but the hover state. And we're going to just change the background size to 40 pixels, 40 pixels. So we're going to increase that background size. So head over here to the browser, hover over that button. You get that effect. So it transitions the background size to double the size of what it was before. You can change it to something really big if you want, like 80 and 80, and see what happens. So pretty intense, a little bit too much. I like subtlety. So 40 and 40 works for me. And now we're going to go to the next line and we're going to say register title. So we're just going to tidy up a few of these things here. Register title, font size. Let's do like 2 rem. And then padding, bottom, 20 pixels. Margin, 0.020 pixels. Border bottom, we're going to do dashed, 1 pixel, E6, E6, E6. Save that. Let's check it out what it looks like. Nice, nothing crazy. It'll look better once we have a background on the whole wrapper there, which we'll do here. So let's go down to the next line. We're going to say register block. And now we're going to style that up. We're going to go position, relative. We're going to say display block. Width is 100%. Max width is 300 pixels. So that's so it can be responsive up to a maximum of 300 pixels. Margin, we're going to just say 0 auto because I don't think we have any. Yeah, 0 auto. So it'll center it. Padding will be 30 pixels. Background, we'll do white. Box shadow, let's add some box shadow. 0, 0, and 50 pixels. And RGBA, there we go. 0, 0, 0, 0.2. So that'll be like a very subtle black box shadow. And then border radius, 5 pixels. Save it. Let's check out what the register block looks like. Check it out. Looks nice. Already looks nice and subtle. I like it. I like it. However, when I'm looking here, the font size is a little bit too big all around. So let's go up to the top of our CSS here. And we're going to go register wrapper and change the font size. I'm going to change the font size. Let's do 1 rem and see what that does. Does it make it smaller? It does make it smaller over here in the browser, except for the headline is a little bit large, which is down here in our code editor. We did that in the register title. 2 rem. Let's make that 1.2 rem. 1.2. Too small. Maybe 1.6 rem. There we go. That looks much better here in the browser. Okay. Back to what we were doing in the first place. So we did the register block. Now what we want to do is create that cool effect. Check this out. When we hover over it, we get that kind of like shuffling card effect. Let's go to our sandbox again. And we're going to create that. So the register block, I'm going to tab this in because it's related. Register block, the before pseudo element, and comma, the register block after pseudo element. We're going to style both those up. Position, absolute, z-index, -1, because it's going to be behind the parent container. 0, top, left, right, and bottom are all going to be 0. And now we're going to say display block, width 100%, height 100%, so it matches the original element, the register block element's height and width. Content needs to be an empty string so that these pseudo elements will actually appear. If you don't have that, then they won't show up. That's something that a lot of web developers, beginner web designers and developers forget. Background, we're going to say white, border, solid, 1 pixel, E6, E6, E6. Okay, and then we're going to do border radius. We're going to match what was, we're going to match the rest of it at 5 pixels. Now what we're going to do is we're going to scale them. So if I save this and check it out, you won't really see anything. Nothing's going to be there. So we're going to scale these, and then we're going to create a hover effect that makes them appear. So we're going to say WebKit transform scale 0.9, so a little bit smaller, translate 0 and 0. Copy that, paste it out. We're going to change that to just transform. Beauty. And then transition is going to be all 0.3 seconds ease. All right, so that one is done. You're not going to see that at all yet until we create this next effect, which is going to be register block. It's going to be hover. So when we hover over the register block, we're going to style the before pseudo element. I'm going to say WebKit transform scale. So I'm just going to paste what we had there, scale, but we're going to change it to something slightly larger, 0.96. So it's not the same size as the original register block. And the translate, this is the X and Y offset, 16 pixels down on the Y axis. This one's just going to be transform. And copy this out right below register block, hover, and after. We're going to make this one even just a little bit smaller than the before pseudo element. And this one's going to be 32 pixels down. Now, I'm going to save this, but I'm going to comment this out first and show you what that first one does. So save that, check this out in the browser. Hover, and that before pseudo element pops down. And that's pretty cool. So now what we're going to do is head back here, uncomment what we just coded up, save that, and let's see what happens. So watch this. Do you see how the after pseudo element is appearing in front of the before pseudo element? That's because it is after cascade in the cascading style sheet, and it's going to appear in front. So that's why we use Z-index. So that's why we're going to go here for the before. And we're going to say Z-index is going to be -1 because that's what it originally is. And for the after pseudo element, we want this one to be Z-index -2. So it's actually behind the before pseudo element. Back to the browser, hover. There it is, just like that. Now, if you wanted to do another really cool effect here, let's try something. I want to do this ease so that I'm going to try and make it so that they both don't come down at the same time. I want to make the after pseudo element come down just a little bit later. So let's see if we can try that. We're going to say, you see here, we have before and after have the same transition. Let's just add one more line here and say register block after, and we're going to make it have a different transition time. You can even do something like transition delay. Yeah, let's do the delay. We want it to delay by, very, very subtle, like 0.2 seconds. That might be, well, let's just see what happens. Okay, check this out. Here in the browser, with the 0.2 second delay, watch what happens. It's kind of a little bit weird. So let's make that delay really small, like maybe even 0.05 seconds. And now let's check it out. See how it has kind of like, it's chasing? I like that. Cool. It works for me. So that's just a cool little effect. And so there we go. There we have our sexy registration form that we built in CSS and CSS3 using a bunch, just CSS, CSS3, no images, no Photoshop, none of that. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. It was a little bit long. Thanks for hanging in with me there, building a cool, sexy registration form. I'll see you tomorrow in day 5 of CSS3 in 30 days. Bye now.